Welcome back to the For Real Though Show. I am your host, Christopher Keith. Hey, thanks for joining us. I know it's been a while since we've been on. Things happen. It's been pretty busy, but we want to get back at you, and so we're glad to be here. If you like us, please subscribe to For Real Though Show on YouTube. That's the number 4, REALTHOSHOW at YouTube. So, as far as the subject for this evening, we're actually recording on Tuesday, the 29th, a couple hours before the first presidential debate, which I do plan on watching. Should be interesting to say the least. We'll see how that goes. But anyway, so the reason why we're talking about what we're talking about today, it actually started with the situation that happened in the NBA playoffs. So there was this shout out to the Lakers, by the way, making it to the finals once again. Uh, but we were talking about the Clippers at the time. So something came up with the Clippers and Paul George, and he expressed some issues with being in a bubble, and he said that he was, going through some mental challenges and whatnot, being in a bubble. So this came out on social media and the internet, whatnot, and so I kind of took issue with that. And the reason why is because, well, it's kind of a long history, but part of it is because there's a fine line between arrogance and confidence. And sometimes when arrogance kind of turns me off, right? And personally, I've seen Paul George as being an arrogant person, and especially when people talk trash in sports that really aren't performing up to the level of trash that they talk. So let's just put it that way. So that kind of bothered me, and I was just like, "No, man, you named yourself Playoff P, and ever since then you ain't did nothing, and you kind of ran this coup against the Lakers with Kawhi. So that was part of my sports thing, kind of getting caught up. And so I kind of posted him, and I'm like, oh, I ain't trying to hear that. I ain't trying to hear that. And it's funny because I'm an advocate of mental health and getting help for mental health. So I kind of felt like, well, maybe he was just trying to get some sympathy, by saying that he was suffering in this bubble. And I said something about it on my social media. And so, and I think if you're a basketball fan, I'm sure, a lot of people understood where I was coming from. But actually, one of my really good friends came to me and was like, I actually posted on a thread. He was like, no, well, I choose to believe him. I choose to believe him. I'm gonna take him at his word. And so shout out to my man Larry Blue, for telling me that. And I had to trip off of it. I had to trip off of it and think for a second. I was like, you know what? Man, you might be right. Because even though I do hate arrogance, uh, and it's kind of been of a thing over my whole entire life. Uh, there is such thing as a fight or flight. And, arrogant people sometimes are really sometimes the most insecure. And, you can be arrogant and insecure. You can be arrogant and depressed. Uh, you're still a human being. So I had to really rethink that. And when he told me that, because of the respect that I have for him, uh, I immediately had to fall back. Happily, I had to fall back. And so I was tripping off of it, and I was like, well, as I think about it, I didn't, you know, I didn't take it that way when, like, say, DeMar DeRozan came out or when Kevin Love came out. Uh, so we do have precedence for it, but I just didn't give PG uh, that benefit of the doubt. And the truth of the matter is, again, two things can be true at the same time, right? So he could have performed horribly like he did in basketball. He could have talked up a great game, and he's still a human being, so he still could have been going through. And I need to respect that. I should be able to separate those two things at the same time, and that's regardless of whether he was lying about it or not. It's really not here for me to say, because life is so important, and depression um, depression, mental health challenges, the weight that we feel, especially as Black people, nowadays is so prevalent that there are many things that could be going on at the same time, because definitely there are many things going on with me at the same time. So I had to fall back, and I appreciate my man Blue. Shout out LB. Our conversations are awesome, and man, we learn a lot from each other, and we have a get a lot of encouragement from each other. So, man, shout out, respect. So, and and then it's funny because even after that, I think that it's becoming more acceptable to talk about, because Dak Prescott even came out and talked about how after his brother had been shot, he had gone through some suppression issues, and unfortunately, one particularly jerk, decided to trash his name in the media with it and saying he wasn't a leader. But I again, I thought that was pretty whack. And no, and he's like the only one that feels that way, so that's cool. Um, so, but no, rock on Dak. Um, I mean, if your brother get killed, that's kind of pretty easy to, you know what I'm saying? That's pretty easy. But anyway, all that being said, the reality is that we all have dealt with many, mental challenges in these days, especially. And I think it's something that, we should dive into and talk about. The things that weighs us down, especially as African Americans or people of African descent, however way you want to say it. And I want to speak about it, I want to speak about this from the African American point of view, but I also want to speak about it from my own point of view. And not because this is, again, I want to make this some referendum about me, as much as I wanted to just be able to show that I relate. I want to be able to show my own issues so that maybe somebody else can be comfortable, because I'm not pointing them out, I'm pointing myself out. Okay. So I want to talk about that. Again, from an African American perspective, I've learned that that there's just a tremendous weight. And it's been coming up, in my spirit for years, in certain layers, that there's just a tremendous amount of weight that we carry. And right now we're carrying it, obviously with the elections, and, we're carrying it with the George Floyds, and, specifically even lately, as of late with Breonna Taylor and that whole Louisville fiasco. And, I know it's affected us in a lot of ways. I've talked to several friends of mine who, these last few months have really been going through. And these are men who I respect. These are men who I consider to be great. Again, men who are my peers, who I look up to, who I respect, who have really, been really mentally challenged with a lot of things that's going on in this world. So it just so happens that we have a mutual respect enough for each other to share and validate each other's concerns when it comes to that. But I think I'm not sure that it's talked about enough. So I want to ride that momentum to talk about it. So, when I talk about the weight of being an African American in this country, there is an extra weight, that we carry that we don't even realize, because we're so used to doing it. You dig? It's like it's almost like the whole frog in the water deal, where you cut the water, you put them in the water and then you cut the heat on, and they don't know that it's boiling until it's too late. That's how we tend to carry things, and because we just have no other choice, survival mechanism. But it's there, it's heavy, it's a burden. Just being in this dual society, if you will, having to live two lives. It's not the first time. I'm certainly not the first to talk about it. James Baldwin talked about it in depth, uh, and so have many others. But I just want to talk about myself. So these. It's almost like when I talked about it before, how back in the day, was if somebody died, it was like, wow, that was a really big deal. And now with, you know 205,000 COVID deaths, and seeing somebody get shot or killed by the police, every other week or what have you. It's like you almost become desensitized to it. It's not, but see, you're not desensitized. It's just it keeps pile it on you, but because of you surviving, you don't sit there and just take it all in and embrace every moment of it. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't fully embrace and take it all in at once and still function. So it's like there's another one, there's another one, there's another one, and then it layers up, and you're like, what are you gonna do? And you try to function. You still have to live your life. You still have to go to work if you're blessed enough to have a job, a place to go to. So but those things are still there with you, even though you're not fully engaged in them all the time. And so, even dealing with the police, for instance, I could tell you, I've had three three bad experiences that I can think of, and I'm going to share all three of them with you, with the police. And here I am, almost 54 years old, and I can tell you, every time, police gets behind me. If he's behind me more than a block or two, I'm nervous, I'm scared. My heart starts beating fast. Uh, I'm looking out my mirror without looking out the mirror. You know what I'm saying? I'm glancing with my eyes, without turning my head. And let alone if I'm going to work someplace, out in the country or something like that, where I'm like in Trump country. I experienced it a lot in Missouri, going to a lot of places where I was the only black person around for 20, 30 miles, and just thinking to myself, man, just let me get home. Just let me get home. Like that's a constant. And so, it's just always that, just that unknown. And so, but I can say I'm gonna share a few experiences. The first time I remember having a negative experience with police, I think I was 19 or 20 years old. I was living in St. Louis County, and I was walking to go to Denny's. And this is Denny's, as I don't think it's there anymore, but it was on Chambers Road, close to 367 for those of you from St. Louis who know that area. So this was probably about 86, 87, 88, something like that. Well, anyway, I was working there, and I was walking like in the toward late at night. I was working. I don't know if I was working or not, but at that particular time, I don't know if I was working. But I started walking that way, and it was at night, and this cop pulls me over. Now I'm walking. I don't even have a car. He pulls me over, asks me what I'm doing, where I'm going. I'm going to Denny's, blah, blah, blah. Matter of fact, I think I was working, but I didn't have no uniform on. So we got to talking, and he gets out, and he's all up in my face and stuff. And then he says, have you been drinking? And I said, no, officer, I haven't. So he goes, well, your breath, you smell like you've been drinking. And so, at that time, what I said was, and I'll never forget it, I said, well, I guess my breath just stink, you know. And I didn't realize it at the time, but it was like inherent. What I was doing was belittling myself before this officer, right? I was belittling myself to not seem like a threat, you know. Uh, I was belittling myself, saying that I had stinky breath because, maybe that would disarm him, because I wanted to be as meek as possible, in that moment, because I knew he had no reason to mess with me, right? So we got to talking some more, and I was like, well, yeah, I'm just on my way to Denny's, I'm on my way to work. Oh, you work at Denny's? You work at Denny's? That's what he said. Yeah, I work at Denny's. Oh, okay. Down there all the time. Was the cops always ate for free at Denny's? So he tells me to get in the car. I get in the car, and he take me to work. But it was like that whole thing flipped and changed when I cook at Denny's. Yeah, I work at Denny's. I cook at Denny's. You know, so the whole thing changed. Because now I work at Denny's. So, but I just, again, the thing for me in that instance is how I belittle myself, how I try to put myself down, as a 19, 20-year-old kid. And again, from my thinking, from my memory, this is the first experience I had with a police officer, one-on-one, and that type of thing. The second time was also in St. Louis County. You're going to find out that all three of these instances were in St. Louis County. The second time was in St. Louis County. I was with a friend of mine, uh, and he was wanting to catch the bus. at this old mall that's not there anymore called River Roads. So I took him. I had a car at this time, and I took him to the bus stop, and we sat there talking, waiting on the bus to pull up. I see this cop. He's from Jennings, sitting there, and we probably was sitting there 10, 15, 20 minutes. No wait, man, man's get out the car. He go jump on the bus. I get ready to pull off. This cop pulls me over. Same guy, that's just was already within eye shot, of me. He pulls me over before I can get out of the parking lot. Give me the whole, license, blah, blah, blah. Give it to him. Goes all through my car, tosses all of my tapes. Like I had my cassette tape sitting down, and he just tossed them all over the place, looking for drugs, looking for weapons. That's what he said. You got drugs, you got any weapons, blah, blah. And just tossed my whole ride, middle of the daytime, And I asked him, so why'd you pull me over? Oh, well, because we've had a lot of instances where people steal things and run out of the mall and drive away. Now, I already knew that he seen that I wasn't even in the mall because the mall was probably 150 yards away from where the bus stop was. But I didn't argue with him, you know what I mean? Because I already knew he was on some bullshit, right? I already knew that. So, but it's like, hey, man, what are you going to do, right? Now, the third time and the most scary time was 1992. And again, I was in St. Louis County. It was at the Quick Trip. I was at the Quick Trip right off of Halls Ferry and 270. So at this time, like I said, 92, this time we didn't really have cell phones, but I had a pager. So I got out, parked my car, by the little curb, not the gas part, but the curb, and I got out and made a phone call. So then I saw this officer sitting there looking at me, except he was by the gas pumps. So he's looking at me, just eyeing me down. And I remember he had this strange haircut. It was like the Archies, like it was all moosed up and blonde and stuff. So I noticed he was looking at me, and my call was quick, but I remember seeing that he was looking at me, so I just kept acting like I was talking, right? So I didn't hang up the phone, just kept acting like I was talking, for a few minutes, and then he finally left. Excuse me. So I'm like, cool. He finally rolled out, and my man Maurice was with me, Maurice Jackson. So we pull off, and I guess we was on my way to my crib because I was living in St. John at the time. So we hop on 170 going toward 270. I'm sorry, we hop on 270 going toward 170. And driving, everything's cool. So then as I start to get on 170, as soon as I get on 170, I see that this cop is behind me. But I just think it's a cop. I don't think it's the cop or the same cop, but I just think it's a cop behind me, So we go a few more miles, and then as we get ready to get under the 70 overpass, he pulls me over. So he pulls me over right there where the 170 and 70 overpass is. It's dark, summertime, but it's dark. And he pulls me over, and I'm like, man, what did he pull me over for? Because I mean, like anybody, with sense, especially if you black, if you see a cop behind you, well, I'm not gonna go under the speed limit, but I'm gonna go to speed limit. I'm gonna be careful, you know what I mean? As a matter of fact, when the cat was behind me, I actually got in the other lane. I got in the slow lane so he can get by, you know. Uh, but yeah, I didn't even notice until he put his lights on. I didn't even notice he was still behind me because that's how less I thought of him when I first saw that he was behind me getting on 170. I just thought it was some other dude. So we pull over, and I roll my window down, and I got my license, between my fingers like this. My man Maurice is just chilling. And it's like I said, it's all dark, ain't no light, but that's where the cat pulled us over at. So I look out the window, he's like, hey, you. And so I looked up and I had to turn around because he was behind me. And he was like, walked on up and asked for my license. I gave it to him. And he said, you see that guy over there? And so now he was to my left. I had to look to my right. So I looked to my right in the back. He said, you make one false move, he's going to blow your motherfucking head off. Now, this other cop had his 9 on the passenger side pointed at me and Maurice, right? So pointed just like this, right? Now all of a sudden it's 2 cops. I didn't even know, like it was 2 cop cars behind me, but I didn't even know that until I got out of the car. So I'm like, damn, like this is the first time I've had a gun pulled out on me, right? Ever, right? So I get out of the car. He had told us to get out of the car. I get out of the car, and I notice it's the same cop, right? Not the guy with the gun, but the guy that pulled me over had the moose hairdo. I looked at his badge, got his name. I didn't say nothing, but I looked at his badge, got his name, and I was like, okay, this is the cat from Quick Trip. And as we standing out there, I'm gonna just tell you what I was thinking. I'm gonna tell you what I was thinking. My exact thoughts were, well, I'm at peace. This is it. I'm at peace. This is it. There had already been other shootings, police shootings in St. Louis, where nothing was ever done about any of them. No matter what the circumstances were, they were never charged, they were never convicted. And I knew that this was set up. I knew I didn't do anything wrong. I mean, this guy got a gun on me and we in the dark. So to me, this is it. Like, I'm about to die. I didn't panic. I didn't trip. I just was like, okay, like it's gonna happen. It's gonna go down. So, but he fucked with us for a while, you know, uh, tossed the car, popped the trunk, all of that, looking for guns and weapons and all this other bullshit again, uh, looking for drugs, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Take my license, he calls it in. They take my Reese license, they call it in, and then they lose the license in the grass, in the grassy area. So we had to find it. Reese and I had to find it in the dark, feeling around for it, like some crazy people. And they kept us for about 40 minutes. And I remember asking him at the end, I was like, well, officer, why'd you pull me over? Because he didn't give me no ticket. I wasn't speeding or nothing. This cat tells me, well, we had a report about that someone stole some ding dongs from the Quick Trip. That's what he said. That's what he said. So at that time, I thought to myself, okay, well, I'm gonna report this guy because again, I had his name, I had the other cop's name, and so I called St. Louis County Internal Affairs Department, and I just asked him about the procedure, of filing a report on a police officer. And so they got to talking about it a little bit. You come in, you fill out the paperwork, yada yada yada. And one of the things that bothered me though, I was like, again, I was a young man at the time, but I was like, do they have to know where you live? That was one thing. Like, do I have to put my address down? Because I don't want them to know where I live, or that kind of thing. And so they said, yeah, well, all your information will be there, blah blah blah. So they said, you got time, you can think about it, if you want to do it. So I said, okay, I'll think about it. And that was a Sunday. On that Tuesday is the day that the first Rodney King verdict came back, where they let all those officers go free. And subsequently, we had the uprising and whatnot. So at that point, I said, well, ain't no way in hell that I'm going to report these officers because nothing's going to be done. But again, I say all that to say, not to talk about police brutality per se, but just to say that there's this weight. There's this weight that we all have to deal with that's really, really burdensome. In Isabel Wilkerson's book Cash, she talks about how she's interviewed a guy, who's from Africa, who had been here for 2 years and already got high blood pressure and never had high blood pressure in his life. His father had high blood pressure, but he was 94 at the time when he got it. And so this guy had just, college degree, doctorate and all of that, but he had just been so stressed And a lot of people may say, man, that don't make sense. Uh, why would he be so stressed? If nothing particular had happened to him, because he didn't say anything particular happened to him, but it was just a stress. And I relate it back to this. I don't know. Like I've heard people say that when they visit Africa, I've heard Black people say that when they've been to Africa, their life has changed. Like they're never the same when they go. And it's easy to think, okay, yeah, I can see that. You go into where everybody looks like you, the cab driver, the doctor, the nurse, uh, the police officer. Everybody looks like you. Nobody's tripping off of it. I can see that. I've never been to Africa, but I have been to Canada. And this happened, a few years ago. I went to Toronto, and I remember when I first got there, got off the plane, got through customs, and I was like, man, it was kind of intimidating at first because a bunch of guys with M16s and stuff and berets, and it was like, wow, this is pretty heavy. But once I got through, I got on the bus, started going to the hotel, and as I'm looking out the window, I'm like checking out all the scenery and whatnot, kind of Victorian, if you will. I was like, wow, this is really cool. It's really cool. So as a couple days go by, I've already been downtown. Matter of fact, my hotel was downtown. Uh, have been through the underground mall, the train, and all of that. Been to a couple restaurants where they serve you the poutine and all of that. Walked around. It was April. It was cold, but it's just really nice. And I just remember so much diversity there, right? I mean, to the point where you could see people with burqas, like head to cover, head to toe, all black, right? All black, as if like in this country, it's like, oh man, it must be a terrorist or something. But it was uh, just a multiplicity of diversity there. And actually, Toronto is a really uh, transplant-like city, where people are from all over the world. And I just noticed, man, that I just felt so good. It's just something felt so different. And I didn't know what it was. It took me a while to figure out what it was, but then it finally hit me. And this was out, like again, after interacting with people, being at a restaurant, ordering something. But it hit me. It hit me what it was. That here in Canada, it's not that they don't have their issues with race, because they do, but they don't have a history of and legacy of white supremacy. They don't have slavery, history of slavery there. And it's like, you know what? Here, I'm not a nigga. Like, I'm not a nigga here. I'm just a guy. Like, every interaction I had with every person in every store, in the subway train, in the malls, every interaction that I had with people of all colors, including white people, I could tell that I was just a guy. Like, and I've told this story before to friends of mine, that this was like a tangible thing. This wasn't just a feeling that I had in my head. This was a tangible thing that I could feel in my body. Like I could feel this in my body. And then it hit me that, man, I really, man, I'm carrying this weight all the time of being Black in America. Like, I mean, I knew it, but I didn't know it until I was until I was in Toronto and had those experiences and just knew. I was like, man, like I just knew. And being just a guy was great. Like, it was great. Boy, I had so much fun in Toronto. I mean, people were just super fantastic. I had a great time. But again, as soon as you cross them border walls again, it's there. It's there. You know it. You know that you're a marked person. You know, and so yeah. And then it got me to think about, you know, the pandemic, for instance, right? So, blessed enough to have a job, and one of the things three I've survived three furloughs so far. Thankful and blessed. And one of the reasons though why it stresses me out so much is, and again, me and Blue was talking about this, was I thought to myself, it wasn't just losing a job that bothers me financially, like the financial ramifications of being laid off, being furloughed, or what have you. That's one thing. But the other thing that's underrated that I didn't realize until I really got to thinking about it is the job seeking process. And I thought about how when I went to interview on the job that I have now, as well as other jobs, you know, especially corporate jobs, corporate America jobs, which I've had most of my experience in. I recall how when I walk into that place and I'm interviewing, mostly white people with the exception of maybe two in my lifetime, how you get your suit, you get suited and booted and whatnot, you get prepared, you study the company, you do all of that. But then there's another entity that you do, that I do anyway. I don't know if you guys do this or not, but I know this when I walk in, similar to my first experience with that police officer, when I was 20, uh, I carry this posture of wanting to, number one, you want to seem qualified, you want to seem competent, right? But you also want to seem non-threatening, right? You want to come across, I mean, I'm a polite person anyway, you know what I mean? That's kind of my get down. That's who I am, is what I'm most comfortable with. But in those instances, you really dial back. Like, I'm not going to say your masculinity, because it's not like I'm acting feminine or anything, but you draw back on anything that looks like it's power, right? You want to be confident, but friendly, but applicable, but digestible, right? And that's a burden. And that is a burden. Like, and that's so stressful. So it's not just stressful to try to do a good job in your interview. It's stressful because, and in the job I'm at now, my first two interviews were with two white women. And and it's not like I'm judging them, prejudging them per se on their, character, personality, anything like that. But it's just like, you're a black male. You can't be too loud. You got to have your tone, got to be right. You got to be positive. You make sure you ask good questions. You know what I'm saying? You can't come in there, hey, you got any questions? No, I don't have any questions. You got to have some questions. You got to have some questions that make them smile, make them purr. Oh, I like that. You know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah, that's a good question. You got prepared for like that, because and then you smile, you shake your head. Yes, I understand. Yeah, I see that. I see where you're going with that. That sounds wonderful. I mean, you doing all of that not just because you want to, again, be engaged. There's that extra layer of, again, of not wanting to, appear threatening. Again, that's extra pressure. That's extra stress. That tells you why we have more diabetes, why we have more high blood pressure, right? I'm on blood pressure medication right now, right? I'm on antidepressants like right now, you know what I'm saying? So, but it's not like I wouldn't be on it if I was white. Who knows? But I know because I can feel it in my body every single day, the pressure of being black in America. So, and I tell you what, I'm just a mid-level guy, right? I'm a mid-level cat, maybe slightly below mid-level in my career. Hey, I tell you something else I've learned though, and then I think I'm so thankful for Isabel Wilkerson for bringing this out in cast, and she showed me what it's like for brothers and sisters out there who are in upper management, right? Those who are, making $100,000, 200,000, $300,000 a year, upper management black people. I tell you what, I can just imagine, like, I don't even have to be there because I can already see it, and I can already envision it. And then when I start talking to my friends, because I got friends who are millionaires and damn near millionaires, black men that I know, and them talking to me about their experiences, and I know like it's like, man, when it hit me, and I even put a thing out on social media once. I was like, hey man, shout out to all the brothers and sisters out there in upper management, out here really making dollars, because I know there's even a different level of stress for you where you are, because some people sure as hell don't want you to have that job you got, right? And always getting second guessed, you know what I'm saying? So I know it's tough. So that again, that bears another weight. So shout out to them. But as it relates to this mental health thing, I think the first thing we should do, how do we deal with it, right? That's the first thing man, how do you deal with it? How do you deal with it day to day? And I think the first thing, man, is just to admit it, just to cop to it, admit it that, hey, ain't no shame in my game. There are times when I'm depressed. There are times when I'm down. There is a weight. We are strong, but there is a weight, and we're human, and it's okay. Uh, Second thing is understand you're not by yourself. Uh, I can tell you again, I have my real close friends. We're tight to the point again where we don't mind sharing these things, so it ain't no secret. I get a call if one of my boys is down. If my boys is struggling. Sometimes we keep the stuff to ourselves, and that's understandable. I do the same. Sometimes I keep it to myself. Sometimes I reach out. Sometimes I may reach out to my mother. Sometimes no, I don't really want to talk to my mom because she'll be worried. So I'm gonna reach out to another man. A man who's maybe walking in my shoes, who understand, and it could be empathetic to it. And again, I could be talking about Breonna Taylor. I mean, man, it's just got me down, man. This stuff, man, in Louisville, it just got me. Or the stuff with George Floyd, man, it just got me. It got to me. Again, not even talking about my own personal stuff, just seeing what's going on in the world. That can get to you too. So, uh, know that you're not alone. Another thing is recognize that, hey, man, just like you can have a broke arm or hurt leg, you can have heartburn, you can have arthritis, uh, mental conditions, are the same way, right? So your mental challenges can be chemical, it can be situational, or it can be both. It can be a little bit of both. Uh, it could be hereditary. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times this stuff is passed down because again, we've been burdened. You know what I'm saying? We've been burdened, and a lot of us, especially black people, we've been taught that, hey man, you just got to be strong, buck it up. You know what I'm saying? Suck it up, buttercup. Or Jesus will handle it. Man, I just go to Jesus and I'll be all right. But again, just like you can have a headache. You can have chronic pain. These things can also go on in your head too. And it's a very fine line. The chemicals in your brain and stuff, there's a very fine line and something that could be off that could cause you, to see things, not necessarily as clear or as not being able to think things all the way through. You can be fatigued, you can be mentally fatigued. And that again, you can not have enough sleep. Those things all go in, to your mental health. You know, uh, so, you know, and understand this, acknowledging these things, it doesn't mean that you're weak. It doesn't mean that you're unthankful, right? You could be thankful and down, right? You can say, you don't have to compare yourself to other people and be like, hey, wow, this guy's got it much worse than me. So why am I complaining? It's not really about that. Everybody has their own challenges, and your challenges mean something to you. Sure, anything could be worse, but it could be better. The issue is your challenges are your challenges, right? What you're going through is what you're going through. It's not to be compared to somebody else. You know, um, it's just part of your journey. So you could be thankful, you could be grateful, and you could still be down. You could still be depressed. You can still not feel, good about yourself or about your situation, right? those things are not mutually exclusive. And so I think a lot of people repress, what they feel inside because they feel guilty that, why should I feel this way? Look at Joey down the street, but again, it's not about that. Joey has his own shoes to walk in. All right. Uh, next thing is, I think, is to, know what your triggers are, right? I think it's important to know when you get to the point, you know, to be able to recognize where you are in the moments that you're in, right? Like I've been dealing with myself enough to know, I kind of know what my triggers are, right? And, when you know what your triggers are, then you can know, okay, well, how do I deal with myself? We all got, again, fight or flight, right? So what do you do when you get down, right? Do you self-medicate? Do you drink? Do you smoke weed? Uh, do you eat, right? I can tell you for myself, I've done it all, right? I've I've drink to self-medicate, right? There are times when I have a drink and I say, you know what, I'm just gonna chill out, smoke me a cigar, have me a drink, get a little small buzz going, and and I'm gonna mellow out, right? There are other times where I've had a drink where I'm like, hey, I'm finna get buzzed up because I ain't feeling good. You know what I'm saying? I just need to escape. I need, hey, parachute out the plane, right? I'm gonna get, lit, you know, uh, in terms of use today. And so, but I know the difference, right? So I don't mix the two up. And if I'm gonna get lit, I already know I'm gonna be at the crib, you know, I ain't gonna be driving nowhere, unless I had a designated driver, but most of the time, if I get down and I have a drink, I'm gonna do it at home, right? And I'm gonna just do me, I'm gonna check out, bam, I'm out of here, right? But I know the difference. I know when I'm eating because it's comfort food, and I just want to be comforted, right? Those are all different, just different things in your body that you can go to, or that you may go to, that you may be tempted to go to, right? And again, it's no judgment on none of them. To me, some people may, do harsher things, whatever the case may be. But see, drinking it, to me, it ain't worse than eating, a gallon of ice cream. You know what I'm saying? I don't judge it one way or the other. I'm just smart enough and aware enough to know that this is what I'm doing and this is why I'm doing it. And I'm going to do it for this amount of time and that's it. Right. But that's just where I am in my life. That's experience that I've gotten to in knowing myself. Uh, do you isolate yourself, right? That's another thing. Do you isolate yourself? Do you start arguments with other people? You know, you have to recognize who you are in the midst of this so you can thoughtfully, deal with yourself. And again, this isn't something you could just talk yourself out of. Hey, I'm just not going to be depressed today. It is what it is. You just have to go through it, right? You just have to go through it. And whether it's situations, there are times when, hey, it's certain things that's just not going on in my life, right? Or maybe I'm into it with my wife or something. That could get me down, right? Depending on what the subject is. If I feel like I'm not being heard, respected, or what have you, that can really get to me. So that's situational, right? But other things that are just uh it just is what it is. Again, it could just be the weight. It could just be the weight of the world. So you have to be honest with yourself. You have to listen to, your inner man, your spirit. Some people may call it the third eye. You know, uh, you have to know what your triggers are, and some of the things that could help. For instance, is tell you what, I'm gonna show you. I'm show you one of the things that can help you. Recognizing this deal right here, this thing right here, right? Social media. Hey man, social media is addicting. It's addicting. And when you consume too much of it, it does take your mood down. It does drain you. It drains you emotionally. Uh, there are times, you know, now there are times when and I've been this way for years. I've been this way for years, where I consume a certain amount on my phone and then I just put it down for the night, right? I'll put it down and won't look at it. won't pay attention to it. It might be buzzing or whatever, and I just leave it alone because I'm through for the night, right? I'm through. And it's just not a big deal to me. Whatever it is, it can wait. You know what I'm saying? If there's an emergency, somebody gonna figure out how to get a hold of me, or it's gonna keep ringing or something until I answer it. That's that kind of thing. But there are times when I've, you know, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram myself to death, you know, and just be like, you know. But now I can recognize, like now I can recognize because I only not because I'm great, because I pay attention, and I say, there's a time now where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna use it. If I need a distraction, if I'm working, and I'm really heavy into some stuff, then I need a distraction. Okay, so I'll pop up. Okay, boom, boom, boom. Like, comment. All right, put it down. Right. But I'm cool because I just needed a quick distraction. Or I'm just, I'm bored or something, you know what I mean? If I'm between baseball games or something like that, right? And I'm just putting something else on my mind right before I jump into the next task. Well, that's me using it as opposed to using me. Because listen, they put these algorithms together to, isolate you and get you all off into these wonderlands and stuff. You know what I'm saying? And it can affect your mental health. I mean, studies have shown it really does. And I've seen it in myself. So, I've had to learn to do that, and it's been some times where, my wife and I, we've talked about it where she'd be like, how come you just leave your phone sitting down there? You won't even look at it. Why it's just I don't need to look at it. I'm tired. I'm done with it. I'm done with it. Mentally, I'm shot. I'm done. This time is for me to do something I want to do, to watch something on TV I want to watch, to exit out of all of that. You know what I'm saying? I'm musing now. I'm up. I'm on it. I've been on it all day. So you got to know. You got to know. Tell you something else. I'm a news junkie, right? I've learned that I don't need to be there for every news story. Listen, back in the day, I remember back in the day, man, they was talking about Clinton, President Clinton, and getting some head in the White House, and the dress, the cum on the dress, and all this other kind of stuff. And man, that could stay in the news for months, 18 months, 2 years, 3 years, uh, Whitewater, all of that, But now, man, it's like the stuff that's going on now. Jack, man, look, I don't care, man, say fallen soldiers are losers, and you know what I'm saying, they losers and whatnot. You know what I mean? They bombs, they losers, and that stuff ain't even, it's a story for like 24 hours because it's some more shit that's coming down the pike. It's so much, so much, so much. Listen, I like AM Joy. I like The Readout. I like Rachel Maddow. I like Anderson Cooper. Hey, I can tell you, I ain't really watched lately. I have not watched. Ever since Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, I've watched hardly no news. I haven't even watched the tributes to her life because I know that as soon as they talk about the tributes, they're gonna talk about this next heifer they got, they're trying to force through. Bill Martin already told me everything I need to know about her. She's white, she's super Catholic, like Catholic extremist, like Catholic Islamic extremist Catholic, right? And I already know 45 that interviewed her. Hey, so you're gonna vote for me when it comes to this election thing, if it get caught up to your court, you're gonna side with me, right? Yep. You're gonna side on the abortion thing, right? Yep. So I can't take it, right? I can't take it. Like I know mentally I can't deal with it. It's too much for me right now. So I've separated myself from it. And actually I've been happy. It's not that I don't know what's going on, because I do. Again, I'm gonna watch the debate tonight. Well, that's something I'm choosing to do, right? I'm choosing to do that. I'm in a good place to do that. 9 times out of 10, I tell you, hey, 45 on TV, if I see his face and hear his voice, I can tell you 9 times out of 10, I turn the channel like right away. Because not because, I mean, yeah, true, I can't stand the dude, that's for sure. But more than that, it's just that I'm protecting my spirit, right? I'm protecting myself from all that garbage, all that bullshit that he's spewing out. I'm protecting myself from it. So, understand something, man. You don't need to have access to every little piece of information. You don't need to know every little breaking news story. Sometimes you got to come away from that. You get re-energized, you restore your mind, You do something fun, you listen to music, you watch a TV program, you do whatever, right? You do whatever you got to do. You get outside for a while, you do whatever you got to do to restore yourself. And then, you're able to come back. I've read and listened to a few heavy books, real heavy, real deep, real serious and critical. So after that, last couple books, been sports books, right? Did one, uh, Ethan Strauss on the Warriors. Did the other one, Jeff Perlman on the Laker Dynasty. Just finished that one yesterday. So, next one, uh, me and my man Blue was talking. We're gonna do one on finance. We're gonna do one on leadership. So I'm mixing it up. I haven't read one of them Trump books yet, right? And it's not that I'm sure they got some information in it, but at the same time, like I already know, man, this dude's a bum. He's a cheat. He's a crook. He's a liar. He's unlawful. He's a traitor. I already know all of that. So it's really, the most thing I found interesting was the tax stuff, right? That stuff I paid attention to. I watched that. But I protect myself by not consuming those things which I know are not going to be good for my spirit. I don't want to get myself more blood pressure problems, more stress, right? Because I'm knowing myself. So I think that's important. Hey, that stuff can be overwhelming. Too much news can be overwhelming, and you have to temper it. You have to temper it. It'll still be there tomorrow. It'll still be there next week. If you get off social media, it'll be there when you get back. Probably the same shit that was going on before. Another thing, that you can do, again, tell somebody, talk to somebody. If you need, to go to therapy, get counseling, get real counseling. There's nothing wrong with that. Uh, and remember too, I know a lot of people, they don't want to talk to a stranger, but sometimes, you gotta understand that it's really nothing new under the sun as far as the brain is concerned. And there are people who are really trained. They're trained on the brain, man. The brain is a science. You're not unique. You're not so unique that your brain is different from anybody else's brains. You A lot of us are just trying to do stuff on our own. There's a guy, I wouldn't call him a friend, I'd call him associate, but I used to ref him in basketball. And one time he was threatening me and stuff. I had to kick him out of a couple games. And the last time he threatened me, he went all blood on me, talking about, because he's a LA blood. And so he went all blood on me and talking about, what his bloods was gonna do. And later on, a couple years later down the line, we end up being friends on Facebook. Because I ain't mad at the brother, but I was just like, I can't mess with you no more because you just went beyond the pale. So I can't ref you no more, right? He wanted to get back in the league that I was refing. And his mans kept asking me, hey Chris, can he get back in the league? He's sorry, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I'm not gonna let him back in. I'm not gonna ref him. Like I can't tell the league what to do. The league was like they wasn't gonna let him in unless I said it was okay. But I was like, hey, he went beyond the pale, threatening my life and all this, talking about the Bloods and all this other kind of stuff. So I was like, no, I'm not mad at him or anything like that. It's water under the bridge. But he went beyond the pale because it ain't like we was arguing. I'm trying to talk to him, like a man and treat him like a man. But he just seems to be singling me out because I'm the only one that's engaging. That will at least give him half a say and a listen. So for some, he just thought that he could do that. Well, anyway, so I noticed that he was posting a lot of stuff about anxiety and depression. And so I reached out to him, sent him a DM, and I was like, hey man, uh, I know what it's like. You know what I'm saying? And if you want to talk, chop it up, let me know. If you want, but don't be afraid to get some professional help too. Because you can interview a person. Most of the time when you go see a therapist, you can interview the therapist because you want to make sure that they're a right fit for you and you're a right fit for them. Most initial consultations are free. And there are also people who go by, your income. So it don't necessarily have to be a lot coming out of your pocket. The therapist that I had, you know, uh, did go by your income. The one that I had that passed away, the one that really changed my life, she went by your income. And when I got insurance, she took my insurance. When I didn't have insurance, she went by my income. So these people in the service industry. So, they want to help you. They want to help you. And so he never did shout me back out. And then he posted something else, about again anxiety, depression. And so I appreciated it because I was like, hey, this a man, he he's super macho all the time, on 10, especially when he hooping. But I admired the fact that he was able to say that, DM'd again. Hey man, listen, I'll help you. You know what I'm saying? I'll help you find somebody. All you gotta do is just let me know. Let me know that you're open to that. I'll help you find somebody to holler at. So he never did respond, but it's okay because I hopefully he found that at least a brother, even that he was, threatening to kill, you know what I'm saying, was willing to, throw him an olive branch and, show him some love, because again, this thing is serious. And because he's carrying the same weight I'm carrying in many ways. And maybe because his lifestyle, was different, he's probably seen some things and whatnot that I haven't seen, right? Another thing, hey man, is to, be there for somebody else. You'd be surprised at how when you take your mind off yourself and helping somebody else, how freeing it is and how much um, it's a benefit to you. I know I'm a giver by nature. At any time I'm there to listen to someone, to be there for someone, it's a blessing to me. Like I get a lot out of it. So I'm sure you would too, you know. Uh, but as we close, man, hey, just remember, don't judge people, who are saying they are struggling. I've been in that situation. I've been judged. I've struggled before and had people tell me you just want attention. Kind of the way I did PG, right? And you don't want to be that person because sometimes your words can be a matter of life and death, and your words can either bring somebody back or your words can send them over the edge. Your words can literally be you know the gun that thing that makes them pull that trigger, right? And you don't want that. um I would just say that if somebody was using a quote unquote depression card, I would say it's probably going to be the exception, not the rule. But like Larry told me, it's not for me to judge, right? It's not for me to judge. My job is to respect people's journeys and where they say they're coming from, and offer empathy. Empathy. Uh, and hell, shit, I could talk shit about Paul George's basketball player all I want to, and that's cool, right? Uh, you know, that's got nothing to do with if he's dealing with something, again, mental. I can respect those two things are not mutually exclusive, and those two things can be going on at the same time. No different than somebody can respect me as a man, where I'm coming from, and say, hey, you're a horrible ref, right? They're not mutually exclusive. It's really all good. So, but yo, man, look, mental health is a lifetime journey. You get better as you go. If you do seek some help, if you do, have tools, if you do, take time to meditate. Meditation is another good one. You may say, hey, man, I have a hard time meditating. I don't really know how. It's really hard to quiet your mind. But sometimes you could just sit there. You don't need to do it for a half hour. You just do it for 2 minutes. Just close your eyes, concentrate on your breathing, and just empty out, just mentally empty out stuff. So, but hey, I'm not going to keep you. I appreciate your time. But again, just want to encourage you. I know that, again, being Black in America is tough. These are some of the toughest times, ever. But at the same time, I always have to think too, hey, man, I'm built for this. There's a reason why I'm here in this generation. There's a reason why I have a voice. I'm going to use it. I don't know what these next few months are going to bring. I know they'll be tumultuous regardless. To me, we're damn near, you know, we're damn near at Civil War level, right? And, every time I step out of this house, I already know I'm in a certain amount of danger, but I'm not going to stop living. I'm not going to stop enjoying myself, sharing the joy that I have in my heart. I'm not going to stop, um, reaching for the skies, and I would just encourage you guys to do the same. So, hey, thanks for joining me. Catch you the next time. Be blessed. And hey, stay in the fight. For real, though.